Hi, I'm Bonita and I am early retired. I'm not old enough yet for Social Security. I'm living on a low income and I am living off of savings. And right now, I'm spending the winter in my RV in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. I normally live in Kansas. I have frugal videos all year round, and I hope that you will join me this year in 2025 as we share ways to save money and live our dreams. Today I am cooking outside in my electric skillet. I have a little bit of bacon grease left over from 3 pieces of bacon that I made the other day, and I have cut up a fourth of a small cabbage, a whole pepper, and about a third of an onion. Now, this recipe is only going to cost about 68 cents a serving. I also cut up 1 Oscar Mayer hot dog, and I have some garlic salt. And that's all I'm going to put into this recipe that I'm going to cook outside here, and it will make me 2 servings. So you can add any kind of meat to this that you would like. We usually use Polska kielbasa when I'm at home, but I'm just using a hot dog today. The veggies are cooked, and now I'm just going to push them to the side and brown my hot dog. I know a lot of people don't like to eat hot dogs, and I do once in a while, but I don't eat very many of them per year. But I do like to mix something into this. You could make it meatless if you wanted to, and I'm only putting 1 hot dog in there just to flavor it a bit. And now I have a portion for lunch and an extra portion in the fridge for later. Stir fries are so inexpensive, and you can take a lot of things like I just did with the cabbage and the onions and the peppers and mix it with just about anything to come up with a really frugal, delicious meal. So look around your kitchen and see what odds and ends you have and what you could make into a stir fry this winter. It helps give you a break from those soups and stews, and it's still a warm and comforting, frugal meal. This winter has been a long and brutal one for a lot of us. And down here in South Texas, it feels like it's never going to get warm. We've had more cold days than warm, even though we're still way warmer than everyone else. It feels super cold, like it's never going to end. And I think a lot of us feel that way this winter. And sometimes you really love the soups and the stews and the chilies. And sometimes you're like, man, what else can I make? I'm tired of just making stew and soup and chili all the time in the winter. So today I'm going to make a chickpea and sweet potato rice bowl. Now, I have said all along, recipes are a suggestion. You don't have to follow them completely. And if you take things that you already like and then you add them together, generally they will be good. So this isn't a recipe per se. This is just something that I had some things that needed used up, and I thought, I like all these things. I'm going to put them together. I don't want a soup or a stew, and this is what I came up with. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I brought potatoes with me when I came to Texas, and I've been storing them on the other side of my sink with this panel over the top. Potatoes store best when they are in a dark, cool place that is dry. Even though they keep well, I've had them more than a month and a half, so I used a couple of them today to peel and chop and put in my 2.5 quart crock pot. Along with a can of chickpeas that I had in my cabinet, I included the liquid, and then I added some tomato base, which is like tomato bouillon that I bought last year for the first time. And then I also added a tablespoon of garlic salt, which will take care of garlic and salt in the recipe. I had a squishy red pepper in my refrigerator that a lot of people might have thrown out, but it's great to cook with. So I chopped it up and I added half of an onion chopped up. And then I added 1 cup of water, and I'm going to cook this on high for about 2 to 3 hours. And then I will make my rice homemade on the stove and make my chickpea rice bowl. To make my rice, I added 3 cups of water, brought that to a boil, added 1.5 cups of long grain rice, 1 tablespoon paprika, 1 tablespoon butter, 1 tablespoon parsley, and a teaspoon of garlic salt. This is definitely a keeper recipe. I hope in this video I am encouraging you to try some new things. I have made up so many recipes over my lifetime, and many of them have turned out to be family favorites. I also use the old-fashioned recipes that I grew up with that are in my 2 Depression-era cookbooks that are in the description box below. But this is a wonderful, delicious, healthy meal that I made just out of things that I had on hand. So I hope this inspires you to change up your recipes and try something new, even if it's not on a written recipe. There's still a lot of people that don't feel comfortable deviating from a recipe. That's why I wanted to show you one that I just made up with ingredients that I had on hand. If you experiment with spices you know you already like, and experiment with foods you know you already like, it is really easy to come up with things from your pantry that may stretch your food budget another day or 2 or 3. Sometimes we can look in our cabinets and say none of this goes together. But if we just mix rice like I just did with a couple of other items with some spices, it turned into a great chickpea sweet potato bowl. And I love bowls with rice on the side. You can make so many things on the side and then pair it with some rice to make yourself a bowl that is warm, comforting, and delicious during the winter. Bowls are also very inexpensive to make. You can make a taco bowl and have some tomatoes, some lettuce, some rice, some taco meat, some corn and black beans. You can do all kinds of things to present that bowl, and it makes a complete meal that is very nutritious, attractive, and inexpensive. There are so many different ways to make bowls, but when you pair that with rice on the side, you've already cut that budget for that meal tremendously, and it is so delicious. So I wanted to give you a couple of those ideas for this winter. If you're tired of your soups and stews, try a stir fry or a bowl. So if you're fairly new to my channel, I was born from Depression era parents that were born in 29 and 31. So I only grew up with rice being served with milk, cinnamon, and sugar for breakfast. We never had it as part of a meal. I didn't grow up with sweet potatoes. We had them at the holiday. That was it. I never ate a chickpea until I was probably in my 30s, and I never had hummus until I was in my 40s. So a lot of these foods are relatively new to me, but I do like them and I still experiment with them because I know that I like them now. I didn't grow up with cauliflower or broccoli. There were so many things that were not introduced to me growing up on the farm in Kansas. We had a very basic menu, and many times it was meat, potato, and a vegetable, and that was it. So I didn't grow up with a bunch of the foods that are very common today and known to be very, very healthy foods. They were considered extravagant, I guess, when I was growing up. We had things like beans and corn and onions and radishes and carrots, and that was about the extent of our vegetables. So it was very, very different for me, but yet I still get out there and I experiment. So I encourage you to do the same. And as I've mentioned in some other videos, sometimes as you age, your taste buds change, because I didn't like sweet potatoes growing up, having them at holidays. I didn't like them, but I'd only had the canned kind. And now I love the fresh. I still don't like the canned kind, but I'd never been around the fresh and I love them. So don't be afraid to try some of those foods that maybe you've never been around or never cooked with. A lot of times they are a lot easier than we realize. When I grew up in the late 60s and the early 70s, we only had a little propane heater in the living room. The living room and the kitchen was just an open area, and that's the only room in the house that we heated growing up. Our bedrooms were not heated. The bathroom was not heated. We did have a space heater in there for when we would take a bath, but other than that, it was off all of the time. I grew up with an electric blanket. So right now I am using that electric blanket again. I have it wrapped around my legs and it is only in the 40s today. It was in the 30s last night. The plants are back in the front seat of the camper. So hopefully this is the last cold front that we're going to go through. I know so many of you are suffering with this cold. I hope you enjoy these recipes that I shared today to maybe give you a break from some of the normal winter foods that we serve. And I hope to see you in the next video. Please give me a thumbs up and thanks for watching today.